Aquarius, when these three cards appeared today, Eight of Swords, Judgment, and Six of Wands, they were not just symbols on the table. They were mirrors, quiet messages rising from the deepest layers of your subconscious. They speak of a bond, maybe born from love, loyalty, or shared history, that has tangled your heart and kept your mind restless. The kind of connection that makes you lie awake at night, feeling your own heartbeat drum against unanswered questions. Something is being revealed now, slowly but with certainty, and you don't have to rip the truth open to see it. Sometimes the clearest things are the ones that don't make a sound. And yes, there is a victory waiting for you, not the victory of someone who fights, but of someone calm enough not to be dragged into muddy battles, because those who once took advantage of your gentleness, those who used the language of love to manipulate you, will face the cost of what they chose to ignore. They thought your silence made you weak. What they didn't know is that you were simply waiting for the truth to speak on your behalf. There are things you forgave, not because they deserved forgiveness, but because you refused to swallow one more drop of poison. But forgiveness does not mean agreement. Your way out is closer than you think. As long as you don't let a passing wave of emotion pull you back into the same old cycle that once drained you. A turning point is coming, and if you ignore the signs, you could repeat the same pain in a brand new disguise. The same story, just different faces. There is still one missing piece. A glance, a phrase, a small action with the force of awakening. Something that will show you clearly who is trying to keep you bound by something that is not love. And more importantly, how you can walk away without damaging yourself in the process. If what you're hearing makes your chest tighten, if it feels like it's pressing into a place you've tried to bury, don't run from it. Leave this phrase in the comments like a key to unlock the door and seal off the old energy. I am aligned with the truth and peace will find me. Write it with the same quiet strength you've been holding onto. Write it as if someone who truly understands you is holding your hand while you say it. And now, if you're ready, let me tell you what the cards are whispering. Come closer, Aquarius. Sit with me for a moment. Take a slow breath and let your eyes soften. I know you're carrying far more than you let anyone see. I know you hide behind humor, behind intelligence, behind that faraway look that convinces people you're fine. But inside, you've been cracking in places no one can detect. You don't want anyone to worry, so you hold the aftershocks inside your chest. You choose gentleness. You choose silence. You choose to swallow things whole rather than spill them into someone else's hands. But your body, it's already speaking, isn't it? Sleepless nights, fatigue without reason, that strange loneliness you feel even next to people who know your name. Dreams that return like echoes you didn't ask for. The Eight of Swords opens this reading. A prison with no bars, built from expectations, guilt, and your loyalty to a story that should have ended long ago. Aquarius, you are not trapped by another person. You've been trapped by the hope that, if I try harder, they will change. But you were not born to sit outside someone else's transformation. You were not born to wait for someone to meet you halfway. You were born to be light, not a chain. And I see someone who was once so close to you. Someone who learned how to use their feelings as leverage. Not always out of cruelty, but out of emotional immaturity. The kind that turns love into a slow dose of poison. They made you feel guilty for wanting freedom. They made you question your instincts every time you sensed something was off. They didn't need to shout. Their silence, delivered at just the right moment, was enough to make your soul tremble. That was not love, that was manipulation. And you, a strong heart, yes, but also a wind that can be stifled if there's no space to breathe. You stayed not because you were blind, but because you didn't want to hurt anyone. You stayed silent because you believed they just needed one more chance. You put your own happiness last, thinking that was how you protected what mattered. But you forgot something. A bridge cannot stand when only one side is holding it up. And you were the only one standing there. Do not blame yourself. The love you gave didn't come from weakness. It came from a noble soul that wanted to keep the world around you warm. But here's the truth. Not every winter belongs to you. The Eight of Swords doesn't resent you for arriving late. It only whispers gently. It's time to stop punishing yourself for what you could not save. You don't have to rescue anyone anymore. Let the light slip through the cracks. Have you noticed it? The sudden chill that runs down your spine, the dreams that feel too real. The memories you thought were buried, rising again out of nowhere. All of it is a warning. What you believed was fixed is shifting. Judgment is not punishment. It is awakening. The truth doesn't need you to shout it. It only needs you to stop turning away from it. This reading was not written to talk about revenge. It came to turn the lights on, to show you that what you're tripping over isn't fate. It's a pattern you've walked before, and you deserve the right to choose differently this time. For yourself, Aquarius, everything that was planted behind your back, the half-truths that stole your sleep, the fake tenderness that made you doubt your own emotions, they're surfacing now. Not because you chased justice, not because someone finally confessed, but because the truth has its own timing. It doesn't need you to search for it. It only needs you to stop pretending you don't see it. Now, when time and space have aligned, the curtain rises, softly but irreversibly. You don't have to scream to reclaim what's right. Truth does not need you to prove it. It just asks that you no longer carry what exhausts your soul. What was never yours is returning to where it belongs. What you once held out of love is dissolving now, quietly, without tears, without explanations, and without you having to play the good one again. Your work now is not to fight, argue, or expose. Your work is to keep your mind still like a lake at dawn, so the river of truth can wash away what was false. And I'm saying this while looking directly at your heart, the part of you that still wonders. Am I being unfair? Should I explain one last time? What if I give them another chance? But Aquarius, light does not have to convince the dark to understand it. The clarity you're looking for won't come from persuading anyone. It comes from finally listening to yourself. You've felt it before, not with logic, with instinct. A strange twist in your stomach when you heard a careless sentence. A sting in your chest after a promise. A silence that didn't feel like peace. Don't blame yourself for ignoring it. Don't shame yourself for wanting to believe. The human in you craves connection, and the compassion in you always wants to forgive. But now, judgment doesn't arrive to punish you. It arrives to give you back the full picture, where before, you only saw a dim corner. And here in this exact moment, I want to invite you into a small ritual. Nothing dramatic, nothing dressed up. Just like a close friend sitting beside you, setting down a warm cup of tea, and lighting a single candle. Place one hand over your heart, close your eyes for a moment, and breathe out slowly. When you're ready, say this out loud, not for me but for you. I lovingly release what no longer belongs to me, and I gently reclaim my truth. Don't rush to say anything else. Let that sentence fall into you like a drop of water touching the bottom of a glass. It's not a spell to make someone change. It's a key, a permission slip, for you to finally come home to yourself. The Six of Wands arrives quietly, but its presence is undeniable. It doesn't shout, it doesn't demand recognition. It simply stands like morning light after a stormy night. This card is a promise. You won't need to prove yourself anymore, because the greatest victory isn't applause. It's walking away from what wounded you without becoming like it. Six of Wands is grace under fire, dignity guarded by restraint. It's you walking forward with your head held high, not from pride, but from the quiet triumph of not losing yourself in someone else's chaos. You don't need to strike back at a blow that was never yours to carry. You don't need to harden just to prove you're not weak. You don't need to dissolve into someone else just to avoid being left again. Real strength isn't numbness. It's feeling deeply and still choosing not to destroy. And you, Aquarius, are learning that now. Silently, steadily, today you'll begin to see signs. A soft word at just the right moment. A stranger's glance that feels like a mirror. A dream, a message, a chance encounter. Each one piecing together something you once questioned. And just when you thought it was all over, a question rises. What if they come back? What if that person returns, with a late apology, a familiar promise, and the same rehearsed tenderness? That answer won't come from me. It will come from your stillness. From the part of you that no longer needs someone to change just to feel worthy again. You don't have to punish them. You don't need another emotional speech or a list of every denied wound. You only need one clear boundary and a heart steady enough to no longer seek to be right. The Six of Wands is here to remind you, the only control you need now is over your own energy and your own choice. The Eight of Swords, like a mirror, reflects this truth. The door was never locked. You've just lived so long in dim light. You forgot you could walk through it any time you choose. If a relationship requires you to doubt your own intuition or labels your sensitivity as a flaw, It no longer belongs to the chapter you're writing. And this isn't the kind of conclusion that needs a fight. It only needs your quiet certainty. Let me say this with the calm you deserve. When you've held onto the unholdable for too long, your body starts believing that tension is normal. So when peace finally arrives, it might feel unsettling at first. You might catch yourself searching for chaos in calm, waiting for a fight that never comes, feeling suspicious of silence, as if it's just a storm in hiding. But you're not about to be hurt again. You're healing, and your nervous system, after years of being in survival mode, is slowly learning that it's safe to let go. So now I ask one gentle thing of you. Treat yourself with the same tenderness you've always given others. Don't rush to recover perfectly. Don't push yourself to get over it fast. Let rest be present, without needing permission. The Six of Wands doesn't just celebrate you, it teaches you. Peace is not the absence of movement. It's the end of inner war, and you, my friend, are beginning to feel it. Something inside you is shifting. It's not about deciding whether to stay or go. It's something deeper. You're choosing yourself. Again and again, with every word, every step, every breath, you're no longer explaining, no longer waiting for someone to agree. This is not about forgiving words that made you bleed just because someone didn't mean it. Not about silencing yourself again for harmony. Not about trading love for loyalty that never showed up. The Eight of Swords named the rope. Judgment lit the lantern, and now, the Six of Wands is your first step out of that room. You'll start noticing small changes. Your eyes meeting others without flinching. Your voice lighter, less guarded. Your walk more certain. And if I may go deeper, there's one thing I don't want you to miss. When true judgment arrives, it doesn't just show you others' mistakes. It returns you to the moments you betrayed yourself out of fear of losing someone. You'll remember the nods you gave when your soul whispered, "This isn't okay." The times you swallowed your truth to keep the peace. The silence you wore like armor, just to hold on to someone who had already let go. But these memories aren't here to shame you. They are mirrors, so you can finally recognize what you will never repeat. And when similar patterns return, and they will return, not to hurt you but to test you softly, say this out loud. What I'm about to say, what I'm about to accept, does it honor the truth I now carry within me? If the answer is no, then setting a boundary is an act of love, not just for yourself, but also for the other person, because it stops them from continuing down a path that hurts both themselves and others. I know you're wondering, when will I finally feel free? When will this pain stop lingering? I'm not here to offer empty promises. Pain doesn't dissolve in a single sunny afternoon. It fades quietly. When you choose a different path, not an easier one, but a truer one. And I can promise you this. In the days ahead, you'll start to notice small signs of healing. A night where you sleep peacefully, dreamlessly. A thought that used to haunt you now passes like a drifting cloud. A conversation you've been avoiding finally happens, and it doesn't scare you anymore. These small things are quiet standing ovations from the Six of Wands, celebrating the fact that you stood back up. Now, picture a room you've lived in for years. Everything's tidy, clean, but there's still one small thing. A nearly invisible thread tied to the leg of a chair. It's not tight, but it's just enough to keep you from fully stepping out. The Eight of Swords showed you that thread, and no one else can cut it except you. But you don't need to do it with rage. Just do it with the clarity of someone who finally knows they deserve to walk free. Aquarius, your inner judgment has awakened. This is no longer about who was right or wrong, but about something deeper. Who tied that thread around you, and why did you once agree to wear it? The Six of Wands doesn't come to demand a battle. Gently lifts your hand and points to the knot that's ready to be untied. And yes, you will untie it, not with anger, not with tears, not with a cry for justice, but with one quiet force, self-respect. And when that thread falls away, you won't need to prove anything to anyone. You won't need to explain. You'll just take a deep breath and walk forward. You'll feel a soft ease in your chest, like someone finally returned the air you were always meant to breathe. And if you've made it this far, and your heart feels tender with every word, it's because your soul is finally ready to be fully present. Leave this sentence behind as a prayer, as a vow whispered into the universe. I peacefully release what no longer honors me, and I allow divine justice to flow through me. Write it down. Add your name if you want to, as if you're signing a sacred contract with yourself. You may be asking, what happens after that? And I smile, because I know you're on the edge of the most delicate truth. There's something you haven't fully seen yet. A quiet energy, subtle but undeniable. It explains why your feelings have been hard to name, why the same story keeps playing out, just with different faces. It's not because you're unlucky. It's not because you're not enough. It's because one missing piece, a piece that's coming soon, will finally show you which door to walk through and never look back. I can feel it approaching you. Gentle, strong, it's not here to expose. It's here to heal, and when it's placed before you, I'll help you recognize it clearly, so you won't confuse it again, so your heart can stay rooted in its rightful place. No longer pulled into old stories, because what's coming isn't just your exit from an old tale. It's an invitation into a new way of connecting. One where your sensitivity isn't seen as weakness, where it isn't used against you, where it becomes your compass, guiding you toward the person you're becoming. And when I see you, I don't see someone I need to warn. I see someone I honor, like a grandfather watching his beloved grandchild stand tall after a long winter. What's blooming in you now isn't a fleeting thought. It's the first flower after a long, cold season. Your capacity for love never left. It's been resting, like the ocean at dawn, waiting for the light to touch it, so it can shine again. That light is returning now. Not loud, not flashy, but with peace, with a knowing that you can love without losing yourself. And now the Two of Cups appears, not as a promise dressed in fantasy, but as a sign of real presence, a connection that's healthy, reciprocal, not built on fear of abandonment, but on the foundation of inner freedom. Even if this connection arrives in the form of love, friendship, or a supportive figure, it's not here to fill you up, but to harmonize with the wholeness you've nurtured within yourself. You will recognize it, not with logic, but through your body. Next to this person, you'll breathe deeper. Your mind won't race to interpret meaning. You won't have to check if you're too much or not enough. There will be no fear of comparison, no more effort to become a version of yourself that's easier to digest. You'll say yes, not because you've been convinced, but because your heart is open enough to receive. But to get there, one final piece is waiting to be placed: the fear of being hurt again. That fear has accompanied you for so long, you may have mistaken it for part of your identity. It made you close the window before you even saw the sky. But Aquarius, you've changed. You're no longer afraid of daylight. You can now discern who comes with true intentions and who comes only to take. You can feel when your heart needs to open like a seashell to the sun, and when it needs to retreat for self-care. That is quiet wisdom, and it is profound. It is your rebirth. The Five of Wands appears like an echo from within, the silent battle you used to avoid, but sometimes unknowingly reenacted. A familiar voice, ancient, perhaps not even your own, whispers that you're still not enough, that you should stay guarded, that disappointment is inevitable. Don't make that voice your enemy. Acknowledge its presence if you must. Witness it, but don't hand it the wheel of your life, because the most sacred part of you has awakened, and it has learned a deep truth. Real love does not require your breaking. It does not ask you to give up your peace just to hold on to someone. Today, you're stepping through the doorway into a new form of love, one that is quiet, unhurried, and asks for no sacrifice. A mature kind of love, gentle with you before it's gentle with others. And in this space, a new presence begins to emerge, not loud, but unmistakable. It is the King of Cups, a symbol of emotional depth, of someone who has learned to set boundaries without losing softness. It may come from a real person, someone who enters your life like a calm breeze with clear eyes and unambiguous actions. Or maybe that presence is you, the newest version of you, finally learning to see yourself with respect rather than judgment. It doesn't matter what gender you are. This is not about masculine or feminine. This is about inner balance. If in the past you were the one who forgot yourself to keep the peace, today you've begun to hold space for yourself. No one can force you to endure for the sake of others anymore, because you no longer feel alone when you stand alone. And then the Nine of Swords arrives, not as fear, but as a loving reminder. Not everything that comes is meant to stay, and not everything that leaves is a loss. Some memories, some people may return, but not because they've changed. It's because your light has returned, and light always draws things back in. But your new center, the part of you that has been rebuilt, will know how to choose wisely. You no longer decide out of fear of losing. You decide from clarity, because not every story, deserves a second chapter. Aquarius, you are no longer responsible for healing someone else's destiny. There's no need to overextend yourself to fill the voids you didn't create. Everything you've given, your understanding, your patience, your unconditional love, stands as undeniable proof that you've done enough. And now it's time to return that devotion to yourself. I see a luminous door opening ahead of you, not pulling, not pushing, simply standing still with calm certainty. Your hands no longer tremble, your heart no longer races, because deep inside, you know, you're ready, and this readiness doesn't come from the fear of being alone, but from a deep self-respect that can no longer be ignored. Here the reading shifts. What I see is no longer just about a relationship, but a complete re-architecture of how you live, how you choose, and how you create your reality. In the past, you often made decisions out of fear. Fear of losing, fear of being let down. But now you are choosing from freedom. You place a hand over your chest, close your eyes, and remember who you are, without fear. And then, the King of Pentacles appears, not flashy, not glittering, but steady, enduring, and strong. This card doesn't promise instant wealth. Instead, it reminds you, you are no longer a leaf blown by the wind. You are now the architect of a life with foundations, pillars, and inner support. Whoever you are, this is your invitation to begin building a sanctuary, both outwardly and inwardly, that truly holds you. I see a transformation in motion. A project once stalled is gaining momentum. A career shift begins to clarify. A new place starts to call your name. A financial opportunity is no longer just a dream. And none of this arrives because you pushed harder. It comes because you changed the way you treat yourself. You no longer give just to be seen. You no longer hold on simply because it's familiar. You no longer choose what's comfortable at the cost of what's right. You've learned to stand still within yourself, and from that stillness, the entire world begins to realign. Whether you're an outward-facing Aquarius or a deeply inward soul, your vibration has changed. And from this center, your reality begins to rebuild itself. Not around reactions, but around creation. No longer from fear, but from profound inner clarity. And when life senses the new frequency you're radiating, it responds. With gifts it's long held, just waiting for your peaceful nod. I sense a protective, ancient energy standing behind you. Not to push you forward, but to steady you when the wind rises. It's a maternal presence with no face. A silent, sacred force that has watched over you through the lost seasons, when your inner compass was spinning. It didn't interfere, but it held onto your soul's purpose, until you were strong enough to hold it yourself. And now, as you begin releasing the burdens that were never yours, this unseen guide opens doors you don't have to fight for, because they were already yours. You only needed to reach. Where once there was doubt, now there is clarity. Where once there was lack, now there are bridges. And then comes the Ace of Pentacles, like the first light of dawn. This is not just hope. This is foundation. This isn't just about money or material things. It's about building a life that doesn't collapse at the first storm. This beginning might look like a new job that matches your vibration, an invitation into a peaceful space, a decision you've postponed, simply because you feared you weren't ready. But today, you don't need to ask, is this the right time? If it arrives now, it means you are ready. People from your old chapter may return, but they are not here to challenge you. They're here to witness you. And you no longer need to prove anything. If they stay, you'll understand why. If they leave, you'll honor the space they leave behind. Your inner world no longer fits your former self, and that, in itself, is a new kind of freedom, one that doesn't need to rebel to be real. A quiet strength that speaks for itself. Then, the Chariot appears, a sign that it's time for you to hold the reins. Stop waiting for someone to validate your dream. Stop waiting for a sign from the outside. To walk toward the place your heart has always known. The key isn't in someone else's hands. It has been forming inside you all along. Moving forward is not running away. It's a deliberate, mature choice. And if you're feeling this in your chest right now, whisper this with me. Not to change the world, but to unlock yourself. Sparkles, I am worthy of peaceful love and a balanced life. Sparkles, sign your name below. If you want, feel that sentence settle like a warm rain, soothing your inner landscape and awakening your soul's memory of where you truly belong. I see a quiet, powerful image, like a hermit carrying a lantern, not because they are lonely, but because they've learned the value of silence. You've gone so deep within, you no longer need noise to confirm your next step. Silence is no longer something you fear. you've turned it into a compass. Loneliness is no longer an enemy. You've made it a companion. From that space, your frequency has shifted. You no longer react on impulse. You choose through observation. The Three of Swords reappears, not as a fresh wound, but as a bell of wisdom. Yes, there was pain, but now it's simply a lesson completed. You were never broken, you were being rebuilt, you didn't lose anything, you were returned to your truest self. No one else can give you what you refuse to claim within. That's why the tarot now places you before strength, not to push you harder, but to show you. Real strength doesn't shout, it holds, it nourishes, and it never leaves. And if there's one thing you need to remember, it's this. Sparkle's courage is not being the first to leap. Sparkle's courage is keeping your softness after everything. Finally, the Ten of Cups rises, not as a dazzling horizon, but as a warm, a grounded one, a place where relationships are no longer chess games with cautious moves, but spacious sanctuaries, where love is no longer a quiet war, where you don't need to sacrifice your truth to keep a bond alive. No more winners, no more silent sufferers, only conscious presence and resonance. You won't have to perform to be seen. You won't have to explain your feelings to be respected. You'll be met by kindred spirits where breathing feels easier and your body no longer shrinks in defense. And that is what real abundance feels like. Not measured by quantity, but by the stillness you feel when you are in it. The Six of Swords paints a quiet picture. A boat gliding forward, no looking back, no struggle, just silence. You've crossed a river no one else could see, but your body felt every ripple. There's still an echo, but you're no longer seeking reasons. You've stopped asking, why did they treat me that way? You no longer return to the same old shores that once drained your spirit. Every step you take now is a love letter to yourself. And at the end of that sacred path, the Ace of Cups overflows like a fountain spilling from your own heart. You love now, not because you lack something, not because you fear being alone, but because you are full, and that person or that version of life will arrive not as something you must chase, but as a response from the universe to the energy you're already radiating. For the first time in a long cycle, you no longer have to chase anyone, beg for recognition, or mold yourself to keep someone beside you. You no longer repeat yourself, and in that alignment, the synchronicities begin. A chance encounter, that's actually a sign. A simple sentence, that becomes a key. A strange dream, that whispers the next step. Your intuition is placing you exactly where you need to be. And then the star appears, a blessing, a mission, a divine reminder that this path is not just yours. It is guided. Even the quiet actions you've taken from the heart that no one ever saw have been recorded in the frequency of grace. You are not alone, not because someone walks beside you, but because you now walk with your own soul. You will no longer receive broken pieces. In place of the whole, you will receive what was always yours. And this time, you will not fear losing it, because you are no longer the one who has to bargain. You are the one who chooses. I feel it in your energy, clear as light. You've remembered who you are. When the wound is no longer the center, when judgment no longer hums in the background, you begin to build a life that requires no defense. And in that place, you don't need to be perfect. You just need to be present, and you know you are walking the right path. You know which voices to thank and release. You know how to recognize what is truly meant for you by the peace it brings, not the intensity that fades. When love sees you now, it won't ask you to shrink to fit inside it. Now, I invite you to close this journey with a vow. Soft but powerful enough to echo through your entire being. If this reading resonates with you, leave this in the comments, not to be seen, but to anchor the frequency that has already awakened inside you. I open my heart to true love and build the life I deserve, rooted in peace. Write it as a declaration, not a request, because you already know what you speak now isn't coming from desire, it's a truth that's always lived within you. And you know something, Aquarius? Once your inner vibration shifts, nothing in the outside world can stop what you're now calling in.